Okay, now there are two different types of groups that are out there, and the chair is going to have different responsibilities between these two groups. You have your small groups and your large groups. Small groups I would define as business board meetings where you have 10 or less people, city councils, etc. Your large groups are going to be your federal and state legislatures, political party conventions. And they're going to have different responsibilities, and the meetings are going to run a little bit differently. For example, in some city councils, you might hear something called a consent agenda, where they'll just literally vote on that agenda and they approve a whole bunch of things and there's no discussion. I have my own personal opinion. I think they're absolutely evil, and that's one of the worst things that can happen. And some rules actually prevent even the minority from actually being able to bring up a consent agenda item. There are some organizations and school boards you'll find this in where they require a 2/3 vote to be able to take an item off of a consent agenda to allow it for discussion. Other organizations are a little bit friendlier where they at least allow for one member to be able to say, I don't consent to this and I'm going to pull it off. So there's different rules. Make sure you understand that. Now, some organizations have a weird tradition with that and it works for them. I have my own views, as you already know. Now, for large organizations, they should be submitting out an agenda, and another difference between small and large organizations is that in large organizations, the chair typically does not vote in the elections. Now, in smaller organizations like city councils and some of the board meetings, the chair will vote not just as a tiebreaker, but vote in the normal conduction of business. They'll also make motions, they'll object, they may actually do all the normal things that a typical member will do, even have discussion. Now, in larger organizations, that's typically prohibited and not recommended. The chair is meant to be seen as somebody who's completely independent, nonpartisan, non-partial, and they're there just to run the meeting. Small organizations, those chairs are afforded the responsibility to also vote as an acting member. Okay, so what are some important tools for you as well in both of those types of organizations? Number one, what if I don't understand what is going on? The motion that you want to have on your back pocket is point of information. If you don't know what's going on, you don't know what motion is on, there's been too much discussion, what you can do is rise and say, point of information, Chair, could you please repeat the motion that is currently up for consideration right now? That's one way. What if you can't hear the speaker because too many others over there in the background are just talking? You can rise and say point of order. You don't have to wait for anyone else while they're talking. Point of order and point of information, you can interrupt other people. Point of order, you just rise and say, point of order, Chair, I cannot hear here because the back part of the galley is just way too loud. Could you ask them to go out into the hallway and talk? Now, what if you think the vote is just too close? This is the other one, call for division, as we talked about earlier. If it's still too close, call for raising of hands or standing vote or even a ballot vote. Your bylaws may actually have rules on that as well. Now, what if new information becomes available and the last vote may have been just a little bit hasty? This is where you can actually come back. If you voted in favor of it and now someone just gave you some evidence that maybe your vote wasn't so good and the body is in the wrong on this, you can actually move to reconsider the vote on that previous motion. And that is it for parliamentary procedure. And if you'll also want to take a look at our website, we've got a nice little handout. I'm going to break out a camera here. We have this nice little handout for you, and you'll want to get this as a PDF file from our website. And in here, it gives you all the base things that you need for Robert's Rules of Order. We have them listed in priority, such as at the very top, you'll see that adjourn the meeting is at the very top. That is the top wild card, that if nothing else is on the floor, you can adjourn the meeting and that could literally end the whole thing. And all the way down here at the bottom is verifying a vote by raising a vote and also amending a motion and introducing new business. You'll notice introduction of new business is much lower than adjourning. Okay? It also breaks it out so that you will know whether or not you can interrupt a speaker, such as point of information, you can, point of order. So down at the bottom, these are all your wildcard motions down here that can help you understand what's happening in the meeting and also help others as well. more than likely, if you don't know what's going on in the meeting, others don't know as well. So point of information is a useful tool. Or if you find that people are just being really disruptive in the meeting and you can't hear, other people may not be able to hear, point of order is absolutely allowable. Now, it will also talk about whether or not your motion needs a second, if it's even debatable. This is a handy sheet. Make sure you have this with you, and you'll have a lot more comfort. Read it ahead of time. It is a useful tool. You do not need to go out and buy the big Robert's Rules of Order book, newly revised, and be expected to understand how every single nuance is there. There are other people that are around that you can ask for advice as well. And if you have any questions, our contact information is available on the website.